The views expressed on the following program do not necessarily reflect the views of Money Radio staff, management, or advertisers, and do not represent an offer to buy or sell any securities. Some interviews heard on this program may be sponsored by the participants. It's time for Health Futures with Cypress Home Care Solutions, Bob Roth. This is Arizona's only show dedicated to providing you with expert advice on how to live a longer, healthier, and happier life. To learn more, call 602-264-8009. That's 602-264-8009. Now, here's your host, Bob Roth.
Good afternoon. You're listening to Health Futures, taking stock in you, and it must be Friday, and indeed it is. We're coming at you live from the Scottsdale Air Park Money Radio Studios, Friday, February 4th. And on a beautiful day here in Scottsdale, it's 57 degrees, and for us Phoenicians and Arizonans, we love it when it's this cool, because we know that the heat is on its way. So if this is the first time you are tuning into our show is about how our older adult population can live a healthier, happier life. How they do that? They do that by listening here. And it's not so much to me, it's to these extraordinary guests that I bring to the show. And today is no different. Today I have on the show the first guest to make 10 appearances. This is her 10th. We've been on the air now. We're in our 9th year. So she's usually up every year on our show. And the last time she was on was in August of 21. And here it is in 22. And we didn't waste any time. We're here in February and we're having her back on the show. And I'm so pleased. She's a dear friend. Deena Goldstein, the co-founder and co-owner of Measurability's Home Safety. And she also is an author of a new book, and she's going to talk to us about that. Deena Goldstein, welcome back to Health Futures.
Thank you, Bob. Wow, that was wonderful. I don't know what to say.
Well, you get a key to the city now.
I will take the key.
Well, you know what? We'll give you a key to the studio because your office literally is about 38 steps from the Money Radio studio offices. So
that's perfect. I can bring the M&Ms. I'll take the key.
And I'm going to talk to James to see. And he says M&Ms for him. Cigars
M&Ms,
work.
okay.
Cigars work too. He really likes a good cigar. So he'll let you in, and you can do your thing here in the studio and do whatever you'd like. So 10 times is a charm. Well, I teed it up really talking about measurabilities. And, you've been on the show. We've been talking about fall prevention and all the great work that you do. I do want to jump into this book that you just wrote and is now available on Amazon. But I want to really, for our listeners, especially the ones that haven't heard you on the show, that may have missed the other 9 appearances that you've been on, can you give us a thumbnail sketch of this company that you and your husband, Sandy, created and the work that you do here in our community?
So Measurability's Home Safety is a clinically based fall prevention home safety company. And basically, what we do is very unusual but much needed. So a lot of times, our aging in place population need things at home that they may or may not be aware of. And so what we do, we have a physical or occupational therapist that goes into the home and does a free home safety assessment. We actually have a wonderful lead behind. She'll go room to room. And there are things that family members can do on their own. Maybe it's lighting in the hallway, moving a piece of furniture. And then there's going to be things, interventions or modifications that they're not able to do, and we can assist them with. So something like, safety grab bars, bath safety equipment, ramps. The bathroom happens to be the number one place for falls in the home. So that's where we tend to do the bulk of our work, but it's not unusual to put in a pool railing or any place where somebody's not sure-footed. We make them safe at home, but everything is clinically based, and it's a wonderful way for people to be where they want to be, which is at home, but safe.
I love it. A plug for how do they get a hold of you?
We have a couple of different ways. Website is www.measureabilities.com. And the word measure does not have an E in it. It's just measureabilities.com. And we also can be reached at 480-214-9725. And we're happy to answer any questions and come out. The assessments are free. The important thing is, as I always say, is intervention is prevention. It's just taking that first step to kind of look at the space and see what's going on. You know, a lot of adult children aren't always present where their parents are living and what's going on. So it's good to have a second set of eyes on what's happening.
And I would imagine, just like we are at Cypress Home Care, right around the holidays is when that realization happens. So I would imagine Measurabilities has been really busy for these last couple of months because the adult children have been in town and they've had that, what I refer to as that oh crap moment. Oh, you know, I can't believe mom's here home alone and there's no safety or assistive devices here. So that's where you get contacted.
I mean, exactly. I mean, they come in for a visit and they kind of are watching their family navigate as they're maybe cooking a turkey or gathering. And, mom doesn't seem to be getting around the kitchen. I watched her trip a few times. I mean, you're getting to see in live time what's happening.
Or furniture surfing. You ever see that? Furniture surfing.
I have.
Yeah.
Yes.
And go from the kitchen counter to the furniture.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
They try to be very subtle about it, but you know, expert eyes like yours and Sandy and mine, we see those things. We're like, uh-oh.
We have seen that. In fact, I've seen uses for dining room chairs that I didn't really know were possible. Surfing across the family room being the number one answer on the chart. Pushing it so that they can get from point A to point B. But by the way, it's furniture, bad body mechanics, and all the other host of reasons. We've even had people, we went into a home many years ago where the daughter was concerned because the mother was holding on to a towel bar, which was inside the shower. Well, a towel bar is not rated for safety. They make grab bars that are towel bars. But what was interesting about this particular case was that she was standing up from her shower chair, which is great that she had that, and she was using a taco separator to latch on and anchor herself to pull up. So we went in and we put a safety grab bar in, and the daughter was very relieved until we got a call and did a follow-up visit and found out she was using the taco separator on the grab bar. So you can lead a horse to the taco separator, but you cannot make her stop using it. So the message is that old habits die hard. But, you know, it's important to look at, okay, if this is something that's comfortable for the person, she obviously was used to grabbing, what can we do so she can be in her routine but be safe and not at risk for falls? And hopefully it's not a taco separator.
Yeah, well, listen, that is really sage advice. And certainly for our listeners, if you are witnessing any of these types of behaviors from your loved ones, intervention is the best prevention, and Deena Goldstein and Measurabilities is your solution. So we have referred many out to you, and you guys do great work, and it's a great opportunity for me to kind of pivot our conversation, because the last time we were in talking together was last year, and we were talking about our dads and, you know,
right,
how important our dads are in our lives. And, you know, I still have mine, and I know you recently lost yours, and you know, we talked about, you know, aging safely in place, and, you know, we were a client and customer of Measurabilities. You know, I lost, or my dad lost his wife. I lost my stepmother literally almost a year ago, and we sold his house and we moved him into this really posh apartment. And I knew right away, you know, he had some handy guy put up grab bars, and I was like, that doesn't look right. And I'm like, Dad, we're calling Measurabilities. It's like, you know, I said to him, you know, this guy's a handy guy, right? It's kind of like having your general physician practitioner doing heart surgery. I mean, you need a specialist, and we did. We contacted you guys, and I'm trying to remember your occupational therapist that came in, Lauren. I think Lauren came in and Larry came in to do the install. Beautifully done, and you know, we didn't miss a beat. And Dad is, you know, now in his place for almost a year, and I know that he's safe when he's in the bathroom, because all the grab bars in the right place, and ergonomically placed, so that he can get off the as he refers to, the hopper, and he can get in and out of the shower with no problem whatsoever. This is a great opportunity as we wind down this first segment to really tee up. We're going to talk about you being an author. and this book that you wrote called Okay Little Bird. So we'll leave that with our listeners. Make sure you stick around. I got Deena Goldstein here in the studio. She is the co-founder and co-owner of Measurabilities with her wonderful husband, Sandy, and she's also an author. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Now back to Health Futures, taking stock in you. If you have questions about your own or your loved one's future health care, call 602-264-8009. Now, here's your host, Cypress Home Care Solutions, Bob Roth.
Welcome back. You're listening to Health Futures, taking stock in you. I'm your host, Bob Roth. Got a little who bringing us into our second segment. Thank you, James. If you're just tuning in, I've got Deena Goldstein here in the studio with me. She's coming in actually via technology, and thank goodness for technology. You know, some of us know how to use it really well, and some of us don't, but, you know, we make the most of it, and Deena Goldstein is one that knows how to use it. What they say, Deena, if you don't use it, you lose it. So we don't want you to lose it, so you're using it. So, you know, if you missed our first segment, go up to our website at cypresshomecare.com. Click on the media button, third button down is radio show. Deena is the co-founder and co-owner of Measurabilities. They're a home safety company, and we talked a lot about the great work that they do in the first segment. And, you know, I really want to make sure that our listeners know how to get a hold of Measurabilities, 480-214-9725, or go to measurabilities.com. That's MEASURAB, no E, ILITIES.com. But this segment and the rest of the show, I really want to talk about something I teed up in the first segment, at the end of the first segment, and that is that Deena is now a author, and she's also an artist too, and maybe we'll actually talk about some of the artwork she does as well, which she is fabulous. She does some really, really cool stuff. But we're here today to talk about this book called Okay Little Bird. And Okay Little Bird, I believe, and you're going to tell us and our listeners, I believe its origin is really around the relationship that you have with your dad. And, you know, we've had a chance to talk about our dads, how special they are to us, and how much meaning they have brought into our lives, and not really just only being the person to help bring us into life, but, you know, I consider my dad, and I know you the same, as one of my best friends, you know, and I have such a great relationship with him, and I know you did as well. And again, I know I've said it a lot, but, you know, I'm so sorry he's passed, but I know that he lives inside of you, and lives inside of you in such a way that it gave you the impetus to write this book. So, okay, Little Bird, you're on. Tell us about this book. Did he call you Little Bird?
Well, so, you know, without giving a spoiler alert, so, about 4 weeks before he died, what's interesting is my father did not pass from COVID. He ended up, he passed from a thing called cachexia, which is a muscle wasting disease due to chemotherapy he had had many years prior. Fast forward, COVID hits, my father's in a group home, can't see him, and I get a call that I'm allowed to go see him on his patio. So I am over the moon, exploding with joy, and I go, and I was told that I could only wave to him from outside. Frankly, I would have scaled the building. It did not matter. I just wanted to lay eyes on my dad. And during that visit, I don't want to give any spoiler alerts, he didn't have a lot of time to talk. First of all, he got out of bed for me, which he wasn't able to do for anybody. And he came to the window in a transport chair, and a few seconds later, it was time to go. And that was the nickname that came out of his mouth. And I just knew at that moment something had profoundly changed. And I started writing Okay Little Bird the day he died. I was sitting next to him, and I had all these thoughts pop into my head, and I started writing. I had my phone. I started writing, and a year and a half later, I lifted my head up, and I had a book. And basically, the story is about our unique relationship. He was a bigger-than-life guy. He's like your dad, super funny, really personable, warm, funny guy. And we just had a great, fun relationship. He was my best friend, and I loved him to the moon and back. And then as he got older, we just kind of did life together, doctor's appointments and recitals for my daughter and whatever. And as we went through this process, then we dealt with illness. And so, I've worked with you guys for years. You're in home care. I've referred people to you. You're amazing. And suddenly we're in the position where now my father needed a caregiver. And let me tell you, you hear about these things all the time, but it's not until you're physically in the midst of it and you have to actually pay attention to these decisions that you realize how critical it is. And Cypress is amazing. I've got nothing but amazing things to say.
Thank
and
you.
He went through that, and we've dealt with hospice. And then I learned how to deal with something I didn't think I'd have to deal with, which was the fact that I lost him. And the humor that he gave me was what I used to get through that loss.
Wow. It's amazing what humor can do for one. And, listen, Deena, you and I have known each other a long time. Probably close to 15 years, if not more. And, you have this way about you, and I know you know this, is that you bring a lot of that to the table when you are sitting and talking with somebody or standing and talking with somebody. And that's why, you've been on my show for 10 times. I mean, you add a lot of humor and levity because the work that we do and the life cycle that we all go through, if we really look at it, it's so serious. And, you can get lost in the seriousness of it, or you can inject a little humor and a little levity to really help you get through the times. And
you absolutely can. I live by that. I mean, the entire family has some aspect of my father. He was hilarious. I mean, from the grandkids all the way up. And the thing is, just so readers know, this is not like, this is a very bouncy ride. You'll be hysterical 1 minute, and then you might need a couple of tissues, I'm told. But it takes you on a journey from past to present, and the humor is pervasive throughout the book because it was pervasive throughout my relationship, and it's still pervasive in my life. And humor will help you navigate the seriousness of so much in our world. A levity really makes things palatable. And I always say that there's joy to be found even in darkness, and there is. And when you think that something isn't okay, there's a way to kind of make it be okay. The best okay it can be. And those are your choices. You either move through it or, a lot of times, people that have read the book, it's been very inspiring getting these emails and phone calls. Oh, my God, I was reading this, and it helped me cope with something I hadn't thought about in years. You verbalized what I wasn't able to express. And so I hope people are inspired and laugh and are able to connect with an experience in their life.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. And, look, we all know about, the Kubler's, 5 stages of grief, right? And they have been really, spelled out, repeatedly. And we see that in the business that we're in. And that is, denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and then acceptance. And, really,
there's actually a new category, Bob.
Right. It's
snack.
It's snacks.
Snacks. It is. Yeah. Snacks need to be added because that's critical.
And where do snacks fit? Is that right after the anger so that, you might feel a little bit better? Or is
no,
it
actually, if you don't get the snacks, you get angry. It's actually at the top of the list.
You see,
like Maslow's hierarchy of needs, it's snacks.
Listeners, you see, this is why I have Deena on the show. I mean, she's adding levity to those 5 stages of grief. So now it's 6, and we want to make sure that we include snacks in there as well. But
very important.
But the one that is not in there is humor, and humor, is something that that we need to really add in our life. I mean, there are times, and my family will tell you that when you're in a family of all daughters and women, I am I'm the joke that everyone makes. So I get it when the joke's on me, and I'm self-deprecating too. So that's okay, as long as
it's
we
okay.
laugh.
You know what? That's great, Bob, because it's important to be able to laugh at oneself. I mean, what's interesting is if you ask my brother and sister, I have an older brother and sister, they would tell you it was like we were raised by a different father. I joked with him, and I played, and we goofed around, and there's a lot of that in the book, and it sounds like you do the same with your siblings, which is a great thing to do.
No doubt. So tell me about your siblings. How many siblings do you have, and have they read the book, and do they contribute to the book? You know, I want our listeners to know that I know I met your dad on at least two occasions. One was during one of your art exhibits that you had over at Temple Solel. I got a chance to meet him, and then I also got a chance to meet, actually three times. I met him also, I think it was at a restaurant, and then I met him at the mall. And
Right.
I will tell you, I saw the love that the two of you guys had. And it was really not a father-daughter relationship. It was really a friendship, and you could see that, and you could see the laughter. And you could also
Yeah.
see, and this is something I see often, is just the way you guys looked at each other, and you could just tell that there was just a lot of affection and love coming back and forth.
Yeah, he was something. He was something.
What,
Yeah.
what we're getting ready to wind down our second segment, and I asked you the question siblings, and then I want to go into the third segment. If you would indulge me, I'd love for you to read a short passage, and let's talk a little
Oh,
bit about it.
okay. I'd love to.
But talk to me a little bit about Deena and her family. So, how many siblings do you have?
So I have an older sister and an older brother. We all get along great, and everybody had nice relationships. I just chose to write about mine. I have an amazing relationship with my mother, and but they would all tell you the same thing that I put in the book. You asked me, did everybody contribute? I did. I did reach out to make sure that I was remembering things correctly. And there's also a lot of these voicemails in here. There's all kinds of stuff that talk about everything.
Well, we got a little Grateful Dead taking us out for the second segment and our first half. We're going to hear from Deena in the third segment. We're going to hear a little short passage, and we're going to discuss it. You're listening to Health Futures, Taking Stock in You. It's halftime. We'll be right back.
Being in control of your money provides freedom. Learn how to make it, spend it, and invest it. We're Money Radio 1510 and 105.3 FM.
Now back to Health Futures, taking stock in you. If you have questions about your own or your loved one's future health care, call 602-264-8009. Now, here's your host, Cypress Home Care Solutions, Bob Roth.
Welcome back. You're listening to Health Futures, Taking Stock in You. I'm your host, Bob Roth, and if you're just tuning in, we're in our second half here, and I am proud to have in the studio a 10-time returning guest, number 10, Deena Goldstein. She's the co-founder, and she is the co-owner of Measurability's Home Safety. She's also a multimedia artist, and she is an author. And in our second segment, we were talking about this book that she just got published, and it is called Okay Little Bird. And this was written based on her experience with her father and his journey through life. And, we got a chance to talk a little bit about it there at the end of the second segment, but I really wanted Deena to really take some time, and I really put her on the spot, and I'm sorry for putting you on the spot, but I know you write so beautifully, and you're an incredible artist, and when it's coming from the heart, it's really, really easy. And I'd love for you to read an excerpt and for us to really talk a little bit about what you wrote.
Well, I appreciate that. But, it's hard to select whether I'm going to do something funny or poignant. But to preface what I'm about to read, my father was very funny and very irreverent. And he would say things unfiltered at times you just wouldn't expect it. And so that sense of humor has been left with me. And so in his absence, I'm still having what I like to refer to as incoming one-liners. So there's a chapter in the book called Incoming One-Liners, and I'll read you a brief excerpt.
All right, let's do it.
There's no question I miss my father with all my being, every moment of every day. Yet he feels so much a part of me that often I feel like he's walking with me throughout my daily interactions. So much so, it's as if he's resting somewhere in peaceful eternity with a megaphone firing off one-liners at times when tears seem more appropriate. My father and I had so much comedic connection that I now feel his post-mortem comedic commentaries in my head. My family has also perfected his facial contortions as well. Since his passing, there have been many painfully piercing moments that began with a lump in my throat and culminated in quiet laughter bubbling up from my chest. Each time I quietly thanked my father for inspiring a laugh. The first New Year's following my dad's passing, I paid a visit to his place at the cemetery. It was my first New Year without Dad. With emotion trapped in my throat, I softly approached my father's sparsely marked graveside. In the Jewish religion, it's customary to undergo a stone setting ceremony 1 year following the death of a loved one. At the stone setting, the loved one's stone is unveiled for the family in a private graveside ceremony. Because we live in a kiln, aka Arizona, the heat would be unbearable in June. So my father's stone setting took place in April instead. The family knew with great certainty Dad wouldn't want us sweating our butts off. Until the stone setting, his life was demarcated by a 3x5 index card with his name, date of his death, and interment. I couldn't help thinking that so much pertinent information was missing from the small white card. Incoming one-liner. Nice. This is what I get for 85 years of suffering, a freaking index card. Too bad they couldn't make it smaller, like maybe on a matchbook. That way the family could have an even harder time finding me than they do now. And just like that, my tears evaporated in the Arizona morning sun, and I began to chuckle. I gazed upward, unsure of where to extend my gratitude to my father for his help.
Well, I will tell you, there stands the reason why you need levity to get through this stuff, because it is just so serious, and you can really let this thing just rip you apart emotionally. And you knew your dad so well that you could hear him say these things. And I will tell you, and I shared with you before we got on the show, and you knew this. My father lost his wife, my stepmom, almost a year ago, and we had the we had the opportunity, and I'll use opportunity, I don't think in a great way, but when we're sitting down with the folks from the cemetery to pick out the headstone. And
Right.
and I asked my dad, what would you like on the headstone? And we went through it for my stepmom, Maddie, and what we were going to put, and we haven't gotten it yet, but we're looking forward to receiving the stone and having it engraved. And then I said, what would you want on yours? And he said, I would like on my headstone to read, I told you I wasn't feeling well.
I love that. That's great. And you know what? To that point, my father said to me, this was like 2 years before he passed away. He'd always crack jokes. I couldn't even handle cracking a joke about him, being gone.
Right.
Do me a favor. Do not serve stale pastry at my Shiva. And the Shiva, for those that don't know, is when everyone gathers in the Jewish religion to honor a loved one and share memories and whatever. He did not want stale pastries. That was his main concern, was stale pastries. My concern was I wouldn't even be able to get food down. But your father's hilarious, and that's the levity that and there's somebody that's dealing with being in old age and looking at that mortality,
right?
And he's got humor on his side of things, which is important too.
Oh, there were some other classic ones. I won't go into them, and some that were appropriate.
You got to write them down, Bob.
Yeah, I know. You're so right, and I wrote a column for the Jewish News that just came out this week, really talking about the very reason why you need to start memorializing these things with your loved ones while they're still alive.
Absolutely.
Because let's face it, I mean, what this pandemic has done is really realized for all of us how sacred and how unpredictable the future is, and how important that the time is now to capture these moments and to really capture this stuff in writing and in photographs and doing video. Video is so easy today.
Yeah, my brother did a 2-hour interview with my father, which is priceless. And I'll tell you, to that point, during the pandemic, I'm one of many stories, millions of stories of people that can't get to their loved ones. What do you do? Well, you can drop off food, you can send cards, you can call, and the nursing staff can hold the phone up, make signs, and if you have the luxury of having an outside window for them to just see you, it's forcing people to be creative. I mean, we couldn't get to my dad, and he only, like so many seniors that are isolated, can't really use an iPhone. And, technology is hard for me, let alone somebody that's dealing with cognitive issues and decline. And so we're forced to be creative and reinvent how we stay connected. And so I tell people, don't give up, just get creative, because it's the new normal. It's just,
Well, it is. It really is. And, the one thing we've learned through this pandemic is just, again, how sacred life is, and just a a snap of a finger, a second in our lives, that we can lose some very special people. So the time is now to memorialize these things and really share with them how you feel about them. I do have a question before we say goodbye on the third segment.
Sure.
We got one more coming up after this. Is that, your dad, was he a planner? Did he have his funeral arrangements already made? Did you have to do that on your own? Share with our listeners, because I talk about this all the time about planning.
Yeah, planning is really important. It's a great question that nobody addresses, not the adult children and sometimes not the parents. My mother's very fastidious. She had important administrative things in place. They had already picked out their plots and things like that.
Perfect.
We did not have to do anything but attend, which was hard enough.
Yeah, and my dad, he's the same way. And he told me all I have to do when it comes his time is to tip the limo driver. And the rabbi. He told me the rabbi too. He goes, he said everything else is taken care of. So that, my friend, is a gift. And your mother and father have given you and your siblings a gift.
It sounds like you got the same one.
Yes, I did.
One.
Well, we both have planners, and we have funny dads too. I wrote about that in the Jewish news column that is out this week. You're listening to Health Futures, taking stock in you. We're down 3. We got one more. Stick around. Deena Goldstein coming right back.
Now back to Health Futures, taking stock in you. If you have questions about your own or your loved one's future health care, call 602-264-8009. Now, here's your host, Cypress Home Care Solutions, Bob Roth.
Welcome back. You're listening to Health Futures, taking stock in you. Your host, Bob Roth, and if you're just tuning in, I have got Deena Goldstein on the line, and we are talking about measurabilities. We are talking about her new book, and that book is called Okay Little Bird. Deena, are you still with me?
I am with you. I am.
Well, listen, we've talked about a lot of different things, and one of the things I want to really end this last segment on is really, what is it? I know what the impetus was for you to write the book, but what is it you're looking for the person that reads the book to take away? And before I even get you into doing that, I did share with our listeners, and I'll share again, if you want to talk to Deena about measurabilities, you want to go to 480-214-9725 or go to measurabilitieswithoutthee.com. If you wanted to buy the book, how do you buy the book?
So there's several ways. The book is available on Amazon at oklittlebird.com. And it's in what's called the pre-order phase, which means the electronic ones you can download immediately, but the soft covers will begin shipping February 28th. It's also available on barnesandnoble.com, bookbaby.com, and target.com. And then the nice thing is I have book club kits available, which are really wonderful. They've been extremely popular. The person that heads up your book club, your moderator, gets a Q&A packet. I do a virtual author discussion, and they get custom signature cards for each attendee for their book. Because of the pandemic, we're not doing in-person signing. So a lot of places to get the book, and then also my website, deenasart.com, has information as well.
And that's DEENASART.com.
Yes, thank you for spelling that. I should have done that.
Well, people spell Deena differently, just like they spell Bobby differently. So, but
I appreciate it. It's true.
But Bob, by the way, is spelled the same way, frontwards and backwards. Just saying.
Which is nice. And my name spells backwards is Anid, so I try not to tell people that.
Anid. Okay, Anid. So
I need and a bird.
Anid. Okay, little bird, I need.
Right.
So what is it you want people to take away from this book?
So, what I want people to do, I want people to feel inspired. I want people to know that they can go through any situation that's not okay and make it okay. I want them to know that it's okay to have humor. Sometimes you have to give yourself permission to laugh when it feels like all you want to do is cry. You can laugh your way, and it doesn't, I don't mean jokes and things like that. It's okay to see things through kind of, kind of more of a humorous lens. It really does make things a little bit easier. And to know that you will get through to the other side. If you had told me 2 years ago, that my father was going to die, that I was going to have to deal with it, and that I was going to end up writing a book, I would have never believed it. But all three happened, and I'm not better because he's gone, but I know that he would feel strongly about me pushing through and going about my life the way that he taught myself and my siblings to do. So, I just want people to be inspired and use it as a tool for coping, and they'll laugh all the way through.
No, and that's a really great point. I mean, the fact that you never ever would imagine, most people don't, that they're going to lose a loved one, and then to lose that during COVID really made it difficult for you. As you described in our third segment, how hard and difficult it was just to even lay eyes on him, and for him to really even come to the window to visit with you. But
Right.
you went through this, and during this period, dealing, your dad dealing with isolation from his loved ones and suffering health issues, and just navigating those waters were difficult for any human being to go through. But to go through that when you have a loved one that is actively dying is got to be so painful and so difficult.
It is. I mean, it's, you know what? Everybody goes through it. If they haven't gone through it, they will. And, you find out that you put yourself aside and you are there for the person, like so many others. We learned firsthand working with hospice. I know you guys, have experience with hospice, and for families that are navigating hospice waters, what an incredible team these hospice organizations have in place. They educate. So much of the hospice process is about transitioning and educating the family. One of the things that I learned that I thought was interesting is that hearing is one of the last senses to go. And so we were with my father, and I felt comfortable, or comforted rather, knowing that he would have the comfort hearing us, that he was not alone. So if you have the opportunity to be with their loved one, which is an honor, while they're transitioning out of this world, they can hear you. They know that you're there. And what a source of comfort to know that you made things okay by letting them know that they're not alone. So I just think that, you go through processes in life that you don't expect, you're not prepared for, and you do it, and you just do it. And I never thought I'd be able to do it, but I did it, and I'm here to talk about it. And I know that, I hope Little Bird will inspire people that they can do the same. And there's a lot of laughter to be had, and there's crazy voicemails and bad gifts and banter, and the book is a journey, and I hope it helps people on their journey as well.
You've given a lot of people this gift, and we need to talk about these things because it isn't sexy and it isn't really provocative. It's painful. I mean, it's painful all the way around, and it's how do you get through these times? And listen, you have a daughter, and I have daughters, and we talk to them, and we hope that we have instilled the values and the sentiments and the goodwill and everything that comes along with that to them, so that they can carry that on to their children and into generations that follow.
It's so true. I mean, you've got your girls, and basically you want to hand them the torch of strength. So look, at some point it happens. I want you to know you'll be okay, and you'll get through it. You're right. It's what we do. It's the passing of the torch.
So we just have about a minute left. And, I always like with you, Deena, just to leave it with you and say, look, is there any question I haven't asked? Is there something that you wanted to cover here in this last minute to share with our listeners?
Yeah, that's great. I appreciate that. Okay, so here's what I would say. Never waste a second of your life not telling somebody who's special to you how you feel. I can say I have no regrets. I always told my father from the time I could open my mouth, which was pretty early and usually quite loud, how much I loved him. just use the opportunity. Always share with people how much you love them because, as you said earlier, time is short and you don't want to have regrets. So let's just embrace the people in our lives because, especially now in our world, what counts is family. And family is love, and they are a constant, and those are the people we want to always share how much we care about with.
And the time is now. Absolutely
Yep.
now. So you and Sandy have anything fun planned for the weekend?
Well, probably walking, getting some outside exercise, usually with gloves, I guess, because it's going to be 38 tonight.
But you
I
know
think.
what? It's a real nice 38 because during the weekend it's supposed to be in the 70s. Deena Goldstein.
Oh, really? Is it really?
Yeah, Deena Goldstein, 10 times is a charm. I'm going to give you a key to the office. James will make sure I get one for you. But I can't thank you enough for donning my door and being here on the show and really talking about measurabilities, but more importantly, talking about your journey, your story with your dad. Okay, Little Bird comes out. Check it out. Deena gave you a bunch of places to go, but also go to her Deena, what is it? DeenaArt.com.
Yeah, DeenasArt.com, plural, DeenaSART.com. And it's on Amazon. And Bob, it's always a joy to talk to you. And I look forward to making it number 12 because this is 11, right?
This is 10. This is 10.
This is 10. Okay,
We're
I'll
out
put
because
11.
James is like, I can't believe I left the mic on. I'll talk to you later. Bye.
Thanks a lot.
8009 or visit CypressHomeCare.com. Be sure to join Health Futures with Bob Roth every Friday at noon, right here on Money Radio 1510 and 105.3